Welcome to my class on shortcuts. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while, but the problem is I didn't understand shortcuts. I always kind of dabbled in Apple script with shortcuts replaced, but I didn't find much use for it. Then what happened was a few weeks ago, a member asked me how they could have their iPhone stop audio when it connects up to their car. And I know exactly what she means. Basically, when you connect up your phone via Bluetooth or CarPlay, when it connects up to your car, what it'll do is it will just start playing the audio, like an old radio station, right? You get into the car and it just starts playing. And she didn't want it to do that. There's no setting for that. This is the default behavior and the only behavior that you have when you connect up your phone to a car. It just starts playing the music that you were playing before. So I did a little bit of research and I found out there's a shortcut automation, and I'll show you how I did it later on in the class. But basically, there's a shortcut automation. It's like 2 steps, and it will basically say the condition is when it connects up to your car, pause any music or pause any audio, and it's just that simple. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's something here with this shortcuts app. That's basically what stemmed me kind of playing around with it. And now I probably have at least a half a dozen shortcuts, if not more, that I use on a regular. So let's see, I have one, two, no, I probably have a dozen that I'm using. So that's how this whole thing started. What we're going to look at here is what is a shortcut. Then we're going to see how we can find shortcuts. We're going to look at how we can organize them, change the name, saving them to a Mac. You can save them to a dock, to the dock on the Mac, or even in the menu bar. You can also save them to your home screen on the iPad, so it's like what I would call a virtual app. You can run a shortcut with Siri, pretty simple. Then we're going to look at how we can edit and create shortcuts, as well as how we can share them. And I'll be down the road as I work on this tutorial, I'll be sharing some of these shortcuts that I demonstrate here, so then you can download them and play around with them, and then how we can automate them. So I'm going to kind of go through these beginning stages probably a little bit quick, because the fun stuff is when we get into the creating side of it. And I really want to kind of focus on that. But I think that we need to go through these first parts of it before we do that. So, yeah. Yes. Yeah, and yes. So we'll get into all that. You can sync them, and I would recommend syncing them, and you'll see how all that works. Shortcuts can work on all the devices depending on what they do. And then shortcuts can be exclusive to a particular device, again, depending on what they do. A good example is you can create a shortcut that can manage your windows on the Mac. Um, well, obviously, the iPad and iPhone do not have Windows, so that shortcut will not work on those two devices. Um, Same thing with the iPad. You can create a shortcut that will create an alarm. The iPad and iPhone have the alarm app. Well, the Mac doesn't have an alarm app, so that shortcut will not work on the Mac. When you sync them, it does work, it syncs across all the devices, but it won't run on all the devices. So there's then a little bit of a catch there. So I'll show you how you can organize them by device. Basically, you can organize your shortcuts. So for those that are not familiar with who I am, I'll make this real quick. I'm Dan Wasink, owner, trainer, Dan's Tutorials. I've been in publishing business, blah, 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 probably 30 years plus, most of that magazine, although the online publishing is starting to creep up on that. I'm a former Apple genius, worked at Apple for about 3 years as a genius. And then I also help out at a local school, tech support. They are all Apple products, MacBook Airs and iPads, and I probably put in about 10 to 12 hours a week there, just helping them out. The tech director is someone that I used to work with at Apple. He's also a former genius. So, I just kind of help them out when they need me. So that's a little bit about me. You can always go to Dan's Tutorials and find out all this kind of information stuff out. So let's get into, a shortcut. What is a shortcut? So we're going to look at this on my Mac first. And basically what a shortcut is, it's an app. It's in your applications folder. So when I go to my applications folder here, what you're going to see is shortcuts. It is just an application. And when you open it up, you're going to see all of the different shortcuts that you have. Now, in most cases, if you've never used shortcuts, you will not see any of any shortcuts in here. I think they come with a few different shortcuts, but for the most part, everything you'll see slim to none here. So, what you can do with a shortcut, I have a few of them here that I categorize. What you can do with a shortcut is basically script things, and it sounds a little bit on the geeky side, but it's really not that difficult. You're going to see that this calculate tip, I'll show you that one shortly, has 18 actions. So that's a little more complicated. There are some that have 50 actions. But you can also, and this is where I started playing around with it, you can also create shortcuts that have 3 actions or 2 actions or even 1 action. So why would you want to use this? Well, as an example, with the split screen calendar notes. Let's say I use the calendar and notes app quite a bit on my Mac. So what I want to do is open them up side by side. So normally I would open up the notes app and then open up the calendar app, and then I'd have to put them into split screen. So you're already looking at 3 or 4 different steps there. That's where the shortcut comes in. It will do all that for you. So if I just run, can everyone see my screen? Is it okay, the resolution? Perfect. So with the split screen here, basically when I double click on this, or actually on the Mac, you have to hit the play button. What it will do is it will open up my Notes app, and it'll open up, well, it looks like Safari there. It'll open up Safari. I must have it set for Safari, where side by side, split screen, just by clicking on that one button. With the Mac and iPad, we'll go to the iPhone here. I'm sorry, with the iPad and iPhone. So I'm in the Shortcuts app. Again, this is just an app. You're going to see shortcuts there. You used to have to download it. I believe they're putting it default on the iPhones now and iPads, but if you do not see it on your device, you may have to go to the App Store and download it. It is an Apple app just called Shortcuts. And with this, let's go to my starter shortcuts. Let's say I'm at a restaurant and I want to calculate a tip. Well, all I have to do is just tap on calculate tip, and it says, what is the bill? Well, it's $56. How much would you like to tip? Well, I'm just going to go with 22%. They're pretty good. So it tells me right there, my tip is $12.32, and the total is $68.32. So if I need to leave cash, I know it's $12. But if it's on a credit card, I know the total has to be $68.32. And all I had to do is just tap on calculate tip. On top of that, and I'll show you how you do this, on top of that, what you're able to do is add them to your home screen. So I could just have calculate tip here, and that's what I call the virtual app. I can just tap on that app and it'll run that shortcut. If I go to my iPad, we're going to run a different one here. I created this one, let's see here, where is it? Browse Dan's tutorials. So this is a shortcut. It has 12 different actions in it. And you're going to see how this works. Actually, let's see, do I have it on my screen? Nope, I don't. So we'll just look at this one here. So I just tap on this to run it. And what it does is it says, what do you want to do? Do you want to browse the latest lessons? Browse any upcoming events? Or do you just want to view the latest Apple news? Well, what I would like to do is browse the latest lessons. So now what it's doing is it's getting the latest lessons. The last, I believe I had set for 12 lessons. And what you can do from here is check the ones that you want. So let's go with this one, and that one. So you're going to see we have little check marks here. And now all I need to do is just tap on done. And it's going to open up Safari, and it's going to go to those 3 pages. And if I were to add that to my home screen, essentially all I have to do, I could use this like in the morning. I just tap on that and I can see what I've added and go through it. In all honesty, I will say, as I was playing around with this, I do use this not for my own stuff, but my site also keeps track of various Apple news as well. So I can go to Browse Dan's Tutorials, view the latest upcoming or view the latest Apple news. This is from like Apple Insider and Daring Fireball and things like that. So I can just go Apple previews upcoming accessibility. That sounds kind of cool. Let's see, what else is there? E-ink displays. Yeah, let's see what that one is there. So I just checked those two. I'm going to mute everyone again. And basically what when I tap on done, what it does is it opens those up in their prospective websites. So it's getting the information from my site, but then it opens up in the prospective websites. So then what I'm able to do is just select what I want to read, and that's all done through a shortcut. And like I said, I'll show you how you do this later on, but I could even go as far as add it to my home screen. And now all I have to do is just tap on that Browse Dan's Tutorials, and there it is. It's asking me what I want to do. So shortcuts, there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. You can delete photos from your Photos app. We take 20 million photos, and we only need to keep 10 million of them, right? So what do you do with the other ones? Do we go back in there and go? We hardly ever go into those old photos anymore. Well, what I can do is, let's see, where is it here? Ding, ding. Plan it for tomorrow. This is where you need to organize them. Delete photos. So I just tap on that. It's going through and, oh, it looks like I have a couple duplicates here. Done. I delete them, confirm that I want to delete them. If I want to see them larger, I can show all two, but I'm just going to delete them. And now they are no longer in my photo album. They're in the deleted photo album. So I can easily manage my photos just by going through and tapping on that. So there's a lot of little things that you can do with shortcuts. So let's go into where you can find shortcuts. Let's talk about that. Pretty simple. There basically are two different places where you can find shortcuts. One of them is, let's go to my Mac here, is right within the Shortcuts app. You're going to see we have Gallery here. So I click on Gallery, and these are all of the shortcuts that Apple has added. So if you wanted to add any one of these, all you have to do is just tap on the plus, and then you can go and add it to your shortcuts. From there, what you're able to do is modify it. So then you can edit it yourself. So if it's maybe 90% there, what you're able to do is just go and modify. That shortcut that I have for my site, I didn't create that. What I did is I found a shortcut here where it says, what news do you want to read? New York Times, Washington Post. I had 5 or 6 different things in there, and I just changed it to say, instead of saying CNN, I said Dan's Tutorials, and this, that, and the other. Found my RSS feeds, and I modified that particular shortcut to work for my site. So this is a great starting point for finding shortcuts. You can also find it on your iPad and iPhone. On the iPad, you're going to see Gallery here. And on the iPhone, if you have to go to the very top here and you see Shortcuts, and then, oh, I'm sorry, you have to go down the bottom right, Shortcuts. And then there's the Gallery, and it'll load up. So what you're able to do is just kind of play around with this. Also, when you're looking at these shortcuts, as an example like this one here, how many days until? If I click on it, what I'm able to do is click on these 3 dots, and I can actually see the different steps. So I can preview it before I add it. And what I would recommend doing when you're playing around with these is stick with what I have found out. Stick with the shortcuts that do not have a lot of actions in them. Otherwise, it's pretty easy to break, and you're going to get frustrated. So stick with the simple ones. At least that's what I'm doing.
Dan, quick question. I know you can automate the HomeKit, but can I use shortcuts with HomeKit?
Mm-hmm. And we'll get into the automation side of it here shortly. Yep, absolutely. Another place you can find them is if on the web. So if I go and search for Apple shortcuts, There are a few different websites out there that, whoops, that's not what I want. Apple shortcuts. I want to, let's see, Google's. We'll just go to Google here. So this is from Apple. That's not what I want. That's more of a manual guide, whatever. But you're going to see down here, Mac Rumors has 8 useful shortcuts. Mashable, there's 21. Here's a shortcuts directory. They probably have quite a few of them. Let's go ahead and click on that. And now you can see all these different shortcuts. You can click on them. Routine Hub is another site that has shortcuts. And all I have to do is just click on these and I can add them to my site or to my shortcuts. So you can find them on the web as well. Now, when you do this, let's see if, look at my notes here. When you do this, what you need to do is make sure that you turn privacy off. So by default, what will happen is if I were to share a shortcut with you, being that I'm not Apple, what would happen is it would say this is from an untrusted person. So you wouldn't be able to install it. So what you need to do is you need to tell your devices that you want to receive untrusted, hopefully you trust me, but you want to make sure that you receive shortcuts from your friends who you trust. And the way that you do that is pretty simple, is just go up to shortcuts. And if you go to your preferences on the Mac here, you're going to see private sharing. You want to make sure that that is turned on. As long as that is turned on, your Mac will be able to receive shortcuts from somebody like me. On the iPad and iPhone, it's in your settings app. So I would go over to my settings app here, and there's a shortcut. There it is, shortcuts. And you're going to see we have private sharing. On your question, Michael, you're also going to see here iCloud Sync. I would highly recommend that you turn that on too. Only for the sake of, as you add shortcuts on any one device, you'll be able to find them. You might not be able to use all of them, but at least you'll have them on all of your devices. And then from there, what you're able to do is organize them. So you can get them at least all in the Shortcuts app, and then from there, organize them. So let's talk about organizing. Basically, what you can do with these different shortcuts is you can put them into folders within the Shortcuts app. So when I go back over to my Mac, you're going to see I have these folders here. I created these folders. Well, I don't think I created the starter shortcuts, but I created that, the Mac shortcuts, auto, these are shortcuts for my car. And then, what is a shortcut? That's a folder that I created. Otherwise, what you're going to get stuck with when you go to all shortcuts here, you're going to get stuck with just a huge list here. You can see that they are organized there as well. So to add a folder, pretty simple. Go up to File, New Folder. You name it. There's my folder. So how do I add a shortcut to it? Just go to All Shortcuts, or where you can view all your shortcuts. And let's say I wanted to add Dan's Tutorials there. I drag it over. And now, there it is in my test folder. On the iPad and iPhone, basically, same kind of thing. And being that these are syncing, you will see, eventually I'm going to see a folder here that says test, and Dan's Tutorials will be in there. So if you want to create a new folder, all you have to do is just click on the plus here. You create a new folder. You can add a little glyph. This is what Apple calls a glyph. It's a little icon. And then you just drag, just like with the Mac, you just drag your shortcuts into that folder. So you can easily organize them into Mac shortcuts, iPhone shortcuts, however you want to organize them. On the iPhone, what we would do is go to My Shortcuts down at the bottom. You're going to see all my folders here. If you are in all of your shortcuts, like right here, what I did naturally was go to the plus here. That is not what you need to do. This will create a new shortcut. We'll talk about that soon. We want to create a folder. So what you do is you go over to shortcuts here. Now I can create a folder and I can choose the Glyph icon and name it. Once you do that, when you go into all shortcuts, you're going to see there's starter shortcuts. If I want to view my recent photos in that folder, come on, there we go. Nope. You can do it. Drag it down in there, and now it's in that folder. You no longer want it in there, you drag it out. So it's pretty much just drag and drop, and then you'll be able to keep them organized. On the Mac, let's go back over to the Mac. I did not show you how you change the Glyph here. When you control click on this, you're going to see edit icon. Tap on that, and now I can go and change the Glyph. I can only use what they have here. I haven't seen where I can add my own in there. Maybe that'll be coming out in next June when they come out with the Worldwide Developers Conference. But there's quite a few things in here, and you can, just kind of, let's go with that one there. And now we can see we have that there. And when I go back over to my phone, I saw it change on my phone. You're going to see I have test here because I changed on the Mac. I don't know why my iPad is being so slow, but that's how you can organize them. Pretty simple. Again, like I say, I want to get around the organizing and what you can do with them because the fun stuff is creating them. The next thing, what you can do with a shortcut is change the name, the color, and the icon. So let's go back over to my Mac, and we're going to look at this shortcut here, Browse Dan's Tutorials. I'd like to change the color of this. I don't want it to be blue, and maybe I want to change the Glyph, the icon. Change the name. All I have to do is just edit it. To edit it on a Mac, what we do is we double-click on the shortcut. We do not double-click on the play button here or hit the play button. That's going to run the shortcut. We don't want to do that. I want to edit it. So on the Mac, what we do is we click on this, double-click on it, and now I can see all of the different steps here. Up at the top, we have the name, Browse Dan's Tutorials. To change the name, I just click in there, and I can go and change that name. Now, the key to making this work when you change the name is you want to hit return. I have found that you need to hit return. If you just go and change the name and then go and close this, it doesn't save that name. So what you want to do is type your new name in here, hit return, so that kind of like enters that name in there, and then you can close it and it'll be the new name. To change the color and the icon, the Glyph, we just click on the icon Glyph here. And from here I can choose the color. And again, we have all of our same glyphs or icons. Just click on which one you want and it'll change it. On the iPad and iPhone, works basically the same way with one key difference. We're going to go to this one here, Add to Shared Album. Remember how on the Mac I said what you do is you double click on the shortcut? On an iPad and iPhone, if you do that, it's going to run the shortcut. So how do you edit a shortcut? You go to the three dots here. So it's backwards from how it works on a Mac. On a Mac, this would run it. This is the play button. And you double click on it to edit it. On the iPad and iPhone, you click on this to run it. You tap on the little circle here to edit it. So it's backwards. So that's a key difference between the iPad, iPhone, and the Mac. So I edit it, tap on the three dots, and again, I have my name. I can change the name. Make sure you hit return to save it. And then I click on the icon here, and I can go and change the color, and I can go and change the Glyph. You're going to see that they are categorized here, but basically you can just scroll through them all if you wanted to scroll through them, much like how emojis work. On the iPhone, again, I need to tap on the three dots, just like the iPad. And up here, I can click in here to change the name. Make sure I hit done. Don't just tap on the X. It will not save the name. At least that's what I have found out. And change the icon, tap on the icon, and you can go and change the color in the glyph. So you can customize these to a certain degree to how you want. And when you add them to your home screen, that is what you're going to see. So,
Dan, if I could, a quick question, and maybe you'll get over it, maybe I missed it, but can you take a shortcut and duplicate it and use it as a template, number one? And question number two, you said home screen. I have multiple screens, so I can have shortcuts on different screens for different reasons, like for work and things.
Yep. So let's talk about saving it to well, we'll first talk about the Mac. It's nice that they're in the Shortcuts app, but then you have to open up the Shortcuts. You have to, Shortcuts app. You have to go and find that shortcut that you want to run, and then you go and click on the play button. It doesn't sound like a very good shortcut to me. Already you're doing 2 or 3 steps just to run that shortcut. So if I wanted, Dan's tutorials, I don't want to have to open up, I don't want to have to open up the Shortcuts app to run this every time. Well, on the Mac, what we're able to do is add this to the menu bar, and we can add it to our dock. We can also add it as a quick action and a few other keys, but that gets a little bit more complicated. We'll just keep it at the basic level here. To add it to your menu bar, what we do is we edit it. So I click on it, double click on it to open it up. I'm editing it. And then what we do is we go over to this shortcut settings. So it's not the Shortcuts app settings, it's this shortcut here, the settings for this particular shortcut. And what we do to find that is we go over to the right, and you're going to see these 3 horizontal lines. This is where we find our settings for it. So I click on this, and then you're going to see Pin to Menu Bar. So when I tap on this, up in my menu bar, I have a little Shortcuts icon here, and lo and behold, there it is. Let's go and add it to the dock, and then I'm going to quit out of Shortcuts, and you're going to see how this works. To add it to a dock, what we do is we open it up here, and then under File, we have Add to Dock. So I just select that, and now you can see it is down in my dock. So now what I'm able to do is run this shortcut. I don't have to open up Shortcuts app. I could be in Safari, I could be in Messages, I could be in whatever app I want. I want to know what's new on my site. I don't want to have to open up Safari. I love my site, but I don't want to have to open that thing up every time. So now what I can do is I can go up to the menu bar here and select Dan's Tutorials, browse Dan's Tutorials. I want to view the latest Apple news. It's retrieving the latest Apple news. I can drag this down a little bit. And let's go with the upcoming accessibility features. I'm just going to select one. My Mac has not browsed to apple.com, so it's asking me, do I have permission to do this? You only have to do this once. So I click on Allow, and now it's opening up to that article. Same thing with the dock. Every morning now what I could do, being that this is in my dock, what I can do is I can just tap on it. View the latest news. It's going to retrieve. I'm going to go with the Apple previews. You're going to see that it's not going to ask me to allow it anymore because I already allowed it, and it opens it up. So I don't have to go into the Shortcuts app. I can just run it straight from the menu bar. I can run it straight from the dock. And that is where the beauty of this all comes into play. Because otherwise, if you run it from the Shortcuts app, I find it's okay, but you're still like doing a couple of steps. On the iPad and iPhone, what we're able to do is save it to the home screen. You kind of saw me do this earlier, so let's take another look at this. You can also save them as widgets, so I'll talk about that too. Let's go back over to my iPad and iPhone. And basically what we do is we open up the Shortcuts app, And then what I need to do is edit my shortcut. So we're just going to go with that same one here, Browse Dan's Tutorials. How do we edit it? We go to the three dots because I'm on an iPad. Now, just like the Mac, I go to the settings here. This is the settings for this specific shortcut. And you're going to see, instead of pin to menu bar, what I have here is add to home screen. So all I have to do is just tap on this. I can go and change the icon if I wanted to. I click on that and I can put a photo in there or whatever. But generally speaking, I would just leave it. Click on add. And now we can see we've added it to my home screen. And this is just like what I would call a virtual app. I can take this, move it down to my dock. I can move it to a different screen. I can put it into a folder. It just behaves just like a regular app. I no longer need it. I tap on the minus and it deletes it. I want to re-add it again. I can go into the shortcuts and add it again. The iPhone, same kind of thing. So basically what I would do is tap on the three dots again. You're going to see we have our settings up here. Add to the home screen. I can make any changes here. Tap on add. And there it is. I want to run it. Just tap. Oops. I want to run it. I just tap on it. And now I can browse the latest lessons and select which ones I want. And then it'll open it up in Safari.
Dan, are you going to teach us how to do that particular shortcut? Would you please?
Well, what I'm going to do is, what I'm going to do with these shortcuts, because I just find them fascinating and I'm using them more and more. So I'm creating a tutorial for shortcuts. I'm also doing one on accessibility options. But what I want to do is I want to teach people how to use shortcuts, kind of thing. So essentially what I'm going to do with these lessons is, in the future, as I add them to the tutorial, is show you how I made them and then kind of give you pointers of how you can tailor them for you, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I hope to kind of help you figure all that out.
Dan,
that one's a little bit more
shortcut,
tricky though, because you have to deal with RSS feeds, and I'm a website developer, so I kind of know how that all works. But it's not too difficult. The tip one is a fun one. I did modify that one because that one only went up to 20%. Well, now I like to give a little bit more with the pandemic and all that, if I can, if the service is good. So I bumped it up to where now it's 22% and 25%. As opposed to just being the highest at 20%. So I did modify that. And that's one of the things I want to kind of show you is how I found that shortcut, that tips, and then how I changed it and modified it for my liking. So then you can change it for your liking as well. So
Dan, could I create a shortcut? And I'm not asking you to teach me now, but is it a shortcut? Can I make one that will compare like house prices, or open up various websites and search for, or put in with the whatever, so I have a list every morning of what an item is at different locations?
Probably I would think you could, but I don't know, but I'd say probably without yeah, I would go with probably.
It certainly could open up 3 different websites to
right.
a certain section
Exactly.
of the website.
Yep.
And I can quickly
and I know there's
Best
shortcuts.
Buy or Apple.
There are shortcuts out there to where, and it's like 50 actions, but it's kind of cool. What it does is if you have a UPC code, I believe it is, I think it's a UPC code of an item, you can scan that item, and then what it does when you run that shortcut, it'll look up that item in Amazon, Best Buy, whatever sites. I think it has like 4 or 5 different sites. So then you can compare shop just from that shortcut. So it is able to transfer information, transfer searches, and all that. I haven't dug into that one too much. I think it's cool, but I haven't really played around with it. But yeah, the potential is quite enormous with this. The other thing you can do, and Steve reminded me of this, you can run shortcuts with Siri. It sounds so simple, but I just never, because I showed him my Browse Dan's tutorials. I sent him it and just asked him what he thought of it. And He's like, hey, this is really cool. I can run it from Siri. I'm like, oh, I guess I never really thought about that. So as an example, if we go to my iPad and I run Siri, browse dance tutorials.
Which one?
And there it is. I can choose which one I want to select. I'm going to go with latest lessons.
Wow.
And then there it is. So, and the way that works is it just uses the name. So remember how we changed the name earlier? I'm going to go, well, we'll stick with the iPad here. If I go into my Shortcuts app, this is the Siri name. In fact, you can see it says, hey Siri, browse dance tutorials. So that's how you can use it. So if you want to say something else, you can go in here and say, change the name, make sure you hit return, and that'll be the new way to bring up Siri, or I'm sorry, to bring up the shortcut. So I am not a huge user of Siri, but I think that is really cool. And on the iPhone, what you could do, calculate tip would be a great one for that. You want to calculate a tip. So basically, where is my calculate tip here? I would just say, hey Siri, I'm saying it quiet, calculate tip, and then she would just run that shortcut, and I could type in, whatever it is. So in addition to adding it to your home screen, you can also use it in Siri. Same thing with Mac, works the same exact way. You just pull up Siri on the Mac, and then you're able to run those shortcuts, any shortcut. Just say the name. That's all you have to do. All right. So that's the basics of shortcuts, and how you keep them organized, what they can do. You got a little glimpse of the power of them. And you can see they can do quite a bit, all the way from running calculating a tip to deleting photos to browsing websites. I mean, there's really just a pretty much, I'm not going to say anything, but there's quite a bit you can do with it. I think the key to making this work, and we'll get into the creating one here shortly, the key to making this work is make sure that add it to your Apple menu. That's why I wanted to get into that first. Add it to your dock, add them to your home screen. I didn't show you, but you can also, we have widgets here. What I can do is go to shortcuts here, and I can add this, and now I have my shortcuts there as a widget. And the way that I would recommend doing this, if you're going to be using widgets, is create folders. So on my personal device, I have a folder called widgets, and then you put those shortcuts in there, because when I go and edit this widget, what I'm able to do is select which folder I want. So if I wanted to have, what is a shortcut? This is going to grab my shortcuts that were in that folder. So you could create multiple folders for multiple widgets, that kind of thing. And now, I can do the same thing on the iPhone, just add a widget. I think that's the key to making this work. Otherwise, if you have to open up the Shortcuts app every time, like I said earlier, I think that kind of defeats the purpose for the most part. I'd say for the most part. All right, so let's talk about creating a shortcut and just kind of see how this works. We're going to look at this on a Mac. The iPhone and the iPad pretty much work the same way, as you can imagine. The first thing that you want to do, and Michael brought this up, what you may want to do is duplicate a shortcut and play around with it. That's a lot of times what I will do. I will do this with a lot of things, because I don't really necessarily want to. I could screw something up and then all of a sudden it's screwed. The original is screwed. So you want to duplicate it and then you can kind of play around with it. So basically find a shortcut that you like and then play around with it. Let's go with this. We're going to go with stop distractions here. So I want to add this, and then we're going to take it apart and see how we can modify it. So I click on the plus here. It's adding it. The first thing is you're going to see it asks me a question. Which apps would you like to focus on? So when you set up a widget, and I'll show you how you do this, what you can do is you can set up some questions for it. And the way that I used this is, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Skylight. This is a picture frame, the old picture frames, but you can send pictures to them. So my mom has one and my mother-in-law has one. So it came to be a pain in the butt. My family wasn't sending any pictures because you got to go into the Photos app, find your photo, and then you got to send it off to, what is it, blah, 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 at our Skylight. And just wasn't a good, nobody did it. So what I did is I created a shortcut, and basically all they have to do is just tap on it. And what it will do is it will pull up all the photos. You select the photos that you want. And then what it does is it adds those photos to an album in the Photos app called Skylight. So then you know that you sent those photos. And then it automatically sends them over to my mom and Beth's mom. And it just does it all automatically. But the thing is, for my sisters and my brother, I did not want them to use my email address. I wanted them to use their email address. So then my mom would see that it came from them, not from me. I don't want everything sent from me. So when you set up a shortcut, what you can do is you can set how you want different things to work. So with this, and you can always change this down the road, but let's just say that it says here, which apps would you like to focus on? When I run this script, what do I want to focus on? Well, let's just go with books. Let's say I was going to read. We'll just leave it at books. I add the shortcut. So now what's going to happen is when I run this shortcut, it's 2 actions. What it's going to do is quit everything and then open up the Books app. So let's go ahead and run it, and then we'll pick this thing apart and just kind of see how it all works. So I'm going to run it, quit, and it should open up the Books app. Okay. It's not perfect. I have run into that where, let's try it again. Well, let's just pick this apart and see why it's not working. Maybe I did something wrong, or maybe there's, So let's go back into our Shortcuts app. And instead of playing it, what I want to do is I want to edit it. I want to take a look at this. So what I do is I double click on it. I'm on the Mac, so I double click on it. And now I can see what it is. So essentially what this is doing is this is turning on Do Not Disturb. So it's not going to, I'm going to receive no notifications. And then it'll quit all apps except books. You see the problem? I didn't have books open. So that's why I didn't open it. So what I would like to do is add another action in here. I want it to open up books. If I don't have books open, let's open it up. That's what I want to do. So these are the actions that it's going to take, and it's going to go in this order. So if I go over to the right, you're going to see we have all of these different actions here. And don't let this intimidate you. Get variable, set variable, get contents of URL. That's where you would go, Michael, stuff like that. Again, we're going to keep this simple. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up here to search, and I'm just going to say open. And you're going to see down here I have open app. That's what I want. So now I just go and drag this up, and I place it where I want. So what I'm going to do is place it here, because I don't want to have it at the end. Think of how this is going to go. It's going to turn on focus. It's going to quit all apps except books, and then it's going to open up books. I guess that would work. But why don't we just have it there? And now I can have it open up books, and then it's going to quit all apps but the books. So essentially, anytime that you see these blue highlighted fields, that is something that we can change. So this says here, open app. I click on it, and now what I'm able to do is say books. So now it's going to open the Books app, and it's going to quit all of the books, all of the apps except books. And this is where kind of, if there's 20 ways to do a thing. I don't have to use this particular script. What I could have done is just say quit all apps and then open books. Instead of using quit all apps except books, I just say quit all and then open books. So there's not going to be a wrong way and there's not going to be a right way to do some of these scripts. There's going to be different ways to do it. There's no wrong way, I guess I should say. As long as it gets the job done, it gets the job done. So now let's go and run this and see what it does. I do not have the Books app open. So I'm going to click on the play button here. This is how we can test it. And you're going to see it highlight here what it's going to be doing. So let's go ahead and tap on it and watch what it does. There it goes. And I don't know if you saw, it basically flashed green through each step, so you can kind of see what it's doing as it's going through it. So now, Do Not Disturb is turned on. Books app is my only app open. Everything else is quit. If I wanted to change this, maybe it's not for stop distractions. Maybe it's I want to surf. Well, then basically I would go with Safari here, or your favorite browser. Safari is my favorite browser. And instead of quit all apps except books, what I would do is I would change this to Safari. And if I wanted to use Siri and just say, I want to surf, what do? We go up to the top here. We change the name. I want to surf. I hit return. If I don't hit return, it's not going to remember this. And now, let's go ahead and run Siri. Come on, you can do it. Siri. My cursor is not allowing me to do that. Here, let's just disable that or quit it. Oh. Anyway, I would be able to run. I don't know why Siri's not working on here. I might have it just disabled because it goes off when I do my tutorials and all that. But basically, all I would have to do is just say, I want to surf, and it'll quit everything and open up Safari, or open up Safari and then quit everything but Safari. So that's basically, the basics of how it works. I can change the order of these. Now it's going to open Safari. It's going to quit all the apps, but the books and Safari. I screwed up there. I left books open. And then it's going to turn Do Not Disturb on. So let's make a couple other, let's make a couple other changes. Instead of turning Do Not Disturb on, let's go and change this to, I'm going to go to Show More here. My cursor, there we go. If I go to Show More here, I can see more steps. What I'm able to do is set it to reading. So now it's going to turn the focus on reading until I turn it off. So we can set up different things there. Instead of quit all apps except, let's just see if there's a quit apps here. It might be just a quit apps. Is that the same one? Okay, so let's just go quit app. And now what it should do when I run this is quit all my apps, and we got to put Safari there first, otherwise it's going to quit out of Safari. So it's going to quit all my apps, open up Safari, and then turn my focus reading on. Basically, I'm achieving the same thing. Oh, nope, it won't allow me to do that. So there's where you see the error. And this is what I say, you kind of have to play around with it. Apparently there's not a quit all. So what I have to do is I have to say quit all but something, and then it'll choose. You can also go with ask each time. So let's add another step in here. Now what it's going to do is it's going to ask me each time. So I run it. Which app do I want to quit? Now you're going to see here that it's not very descriptive. It's not, I want to surf. Okay, what does all this mean? So I need to add some verbiage in here. Well, if I go to Show More, and let's see, nope. Let's go and add, let's see here, I think it's under text. Match text, get text from input, speak text. So you have a lot of stuff here. Or maybe it's message, show alert. So let's put that up there. And I just go, which app do you want to quit? Let's see if this works. Which app do you want to quit? There it is. So now I can select which one do I want to quit. Actually, it might be which app don't you want to quit, because it's going to quit everything but this one that I choose. And I can put a title in there. So, you can kind of steer, give a little bit of direction for that. Let's look at another one here. We're going to go with calculate tip. So with this one, you can kind of get an idea. And this is what I say, it's kind of fun to look at these if you like this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that everyone does. But here you're going to see the first, and this is, when you look at these, it kind of can give you an idea of what Shortcuts is capable of. Here's the ask for number, what is the bill? So this is an ask. So it's going to do that first. And then it's going to choose from a menu. So I'm going to be able to select from a menu. Oh, I want to add a new item in there. I tap on the plus. I want to remove an item. I want to change what is shown. I just type in here and I can change it. The next thing it does is it does the calculation. So if I go and change something here, 22%, if I change it to 23, I'd have to make sure that I change this to 23 as well, because otherwise the calculation is going to be wrong. Then what it does is it just kind of goes through and steps, calculates and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit geeky there, but you can kind of see how it all works. We'll go with one more, delete photos. This one is kind of an interesting one because I used this one quite a bit for other things. This kind of branched me off into my photos kind of thing. So with this one here, what it does is it finds all the photos that is not a favorite. What I like to do with my photos, I will go through my photos album and I will favorite photos. So it was tulip time last week. I took, let's just say I took a dozen pictures of tulips. Well, really, there's probably 2 or 3 of them that are good, kind of thing. So I don't want to see all those other ones. So if I wanted to share something, I only want to see my favorite ones. So what I would do is I would click on this and I would say, show me all the ones that are my favorite. And then how do I want it sorted? Do I want to limit them? And you can go in here and say, give me date taken is in the last 1 month. So now it's going to show me all the photos that were taken in the last month. It's going to sort them by the date that it was taken. And with this one, I probably wouldn't need a limit. Otherwise, it would show me it'd take a while to run the script. And then what I can do is I can choose those photos. So it's going to show me them. And then I'm able to choose it. Take that out there. So, and let's go with my favorites. We're going to modify this. I don't want to delete them. Maybe what I want to do is share them. I want to add into a shared album. So I just delete this. And I go album. And you're going to see save to photo album. Drag that out. Take the chosen item, which is up here. I'll show you how this works, and then you'll get the basics of it. And where do I want to save it to? Which album? So I'm going to go with, let's just go tulip time for the fun of it. So now what it's going to do is it's going to allow me to select photos from the last 30 days. I select which ones, and I can select multiple. And then what I'm able to do is save them to whatever I choose to my photo album, to my tulip time photo album. Now, the last thing I want to mention, like I say, I could really go down a rabbit hole here, but I don't want to do that because there's a lot of things you can do. But the last thing I want to mention when we're talking about this is, so it'll find all the photos. Think of how the steps work here. Then you choose your photos, and then what do you want to do with those chosen photos? So that's why it says chosen item. Well, sometimes what may happen here is, I'm going to clear this, you're going to see that this is disconnected here. So if I were to run this, I would get an error. It would find all the photos, I would be able to select them. But what it is not going to do is save them to my Tulip Time album because there's a disconnect here. What do you want this to save? What do you want to save to that photo album? So I click on input here. I select the magic variable, and then I go chosen item. So I'll do that again because this is a key part of making this whole thing work. When you make changes, if you don't make any changes, it does it all automatically. But if you go and make changes to it, you could run into a problem. So if you are running into a problem, what you may need to do is clear it. Now there's no variable here, and input magic. And what I'm able to do is say the chosen item, or let's just say I want to add all the photos. I could just select photos here. And now what it's going to do is it's going to completely ignore this step. I'm going to see this step. But what Shortcuts is going to do is it's going to take the photos from up here and save them to my album. So I don't want to do that. So again, clear it, input, magic variable, chosen item. Now, when I do this, when I run this, it's grabbing my photos. Yep, there's some nice tulip pictures. I select which ones I want. And now it just added those to my album in the Photos app. So when I open up my Photos app and I go to Tulip Time, there they are. I doubled them up. So let's go with, let's take this one step further, and then I'll show you a couple other things and we'll go from there. So I doubled these up. This is where Shortcuts, the beauty of it, kind of comes into play. So I wish it wouldn't show me photos that were in this album. If it didn't show me photos that were in this album, I wouldn't be able to double them up, right? So let's go back over to that shortcut. And where is it? I think it's this one. It's no longer delete. Yep. Here we'll go add photos to Tulip Time. Okay. Album. All right. So right now it's going to find all the photos. Oops, I don't want it to find all the photos. I want to find all the photos except the ones that are in Tulip Time album. So now I go over to this plus here and I say the album is not Tulip Time. So now it's going to find me all of my favorite photos, but it's not going to show me all the ones that are in that album already. So now I'm no longer going to duplicate them. So let's go ahead and run this and watch what happens. I'm not going to see those photos there anymore. You can see those photos are gone. If I go and add this mill here. Okay, so it just added it. Let's go and run it again. It's no longer there because it's already in that album. So now I can't go and duplicate what I want in there. So what you can do on the iPhone and the if you have Instagram, you can have it post to Instagram. Third-party apps also have shortcuts. On my car, my Tesla car, what I'm able to do is start the climate control all through a shortcut. So that's the excuse me. That's the basics of how editing a shortcut and that kind of thing. I want to talk about. I think there's 2 more slides here. Probably a little overwhelming, but it's kind of neat. The next thing that I want to talk about is those import questions. Remember how it asked questions? So let's go back over to, I'm going to show you on my Mac. Again, the iPad and the iPhone basically work the same way. So this is probably a Catalyst app, which means that it's built from an iPad and then they just kind of modified it for the Mac. That's kind of what I'm thinking it is. So let's go with, let's see, is there an email one here? Email last image. This has 2 actions. Get the latest 2 photos and send to recipients. So when I run this, what it's going to do is it's going to send to recipients. Now, if I want to share this, and I'll talk about sharing here, I think that's the last slide. If I want to share this with someone, I don't want them to see my recipients in here. I can click in here and just go and add my people in here. I don't want to do that. I want them to add excuse me, I want them to add their own recipients. So this is where the questions come into play. So what I do is I go over to my settings here, and then you're going to see setup. Remember, this is where we pin it to the menu bar. This is also where we add it to the home screen on an iPad and an iPhone. When I go to setup here, I have import questions. So now I just go and add my questions, tap on the plus, and I say recipients. This is the question that I want to ask. I don't want it to use my recipients. Who do you want to send this to? And then I tap on done. Now what's going to happen is if I were to share this with any of you, when you add it to your Shortcuts app, what it would do is the first question it would ask is, who do you want to send this to? It would only ask that one time. That's the setup. So again, a perfect example is that skylight, that picture frame the shortcut I use for the picture frame. What I did in my shortcut here is I went to setup. I added a new question for who is this coming from? And then my brother would have to put in his email address. My sisters would have to put in their email address. And then from that point on, every time that shortcut ran, it would use their email address. It wouldn't use mine. If I don't do that, if I don't add a question in here, it would use my email address. So that's a way that you can keep that private stuff out. So if you create a shortcut and you want to share it with someone, make sure you just go over to setup here. And it's pretty simple. You're going to see all you have to do is just click on which one you want to change. Let's say you want to change the message. Maybe you have your own message and you want other people to change the message. They want to have their own message. Tap on it. What is the question? You could put a default answer. When they run that shortcut the first time, they only have to run it one time. It's going to ask that question. And then from that point on, it'll use their information instead of your information. So that's a key part to sharing. On the sharing, the way that you do share them, and remember, make sure you turn that privacy on. The way that you do share them is you edit it. So on the Mac here, what I do is I go over to the share icon, and then I just go and share it. You do need to have an internet connection. What it does is it shares it through the gallery. It doesn't put it into the gallery, but it's kind of, I would say, the transfer mechanism. So it doesn't make it public, but it does need to have an internet connection, both parties. So if I was sharing this with my sister, and I found this out when I went to the beach, we went to my sister's camping at our beach here. Internet is pretty spotty for her. I have Verizon, so it's pretty good, but she has Sprint and no internet connection. So I had her connect up to my hotspot, and then what I was able to do is share that skylight thing, because what it does is it uploads it into Apple's servers, and then they're able to download it. Even if I used AirDrop, that's just the way it works. So you can just send it via messages or whatever, and you're going to see here, I sent some of these scripts via messages to myself. Here they all are. The home ETA one, this one was kind of fun. Basically, this is a shortcut. Well, let's run it, and you'll see what I mean. This one has those questions in it. So I'm going to add the shortcut. Now, the way that what this shortcut does is it looks at your location, and then it looks at who you want to send to. So in my case, I want to send this to Beth. And then what it will do is it'll give her an ETA. So I go out to Fricano's, a local pizza joint, with my brother on Tuesday nights here. And if I wanted to give her an ETA when I leave, so then she knows when to expect me, all I have to do is just tap on this shortcut, and it does everything all. That's it. It's done. It sends it all, sends it messages, and takes care of everything. But again, what it's doing is it's sending it to Beth's email address, and what it needs to know is your home address. So if I were to share this with you, you don't want my home address, you want your home address. So when I go to add shortcut, it says, what is your address? So I would just go 669 Washington, Holland, MI, and it is 49423. So now when I run this shortcut, it knows where I'm going. So when I run this, Oh, I didn't have the recipient in there. So, but basically, you can see it is open up in messages, and on my phone, it automatically puts Beth's name in there, and then it just sends her an ETA. So that's where those questions come into play. It's great for privacy kind of things.
Dan, as we were talking, I noticed, and this is maybe a whole different subject, but my watch has got shortcuts on it, and I
Yep.
have a cellular watch. Could I create a tip thing and just not take my phone
I
and use
don't
my
know
watch?
if I think on the watch, basically what you can do is you can run the show. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. I haven't really run it on anything on my Apple Watch. I'm sorry, I do have one more slide. This is getting a little bit longer. 7:30 will be hopefully done. But this one is kind of cool. This is one that started the whole ball rolling with me in shortcuts. My story of at the beginning of where somebody wanted to run an automation and just have it run automatically. So we're going to go to my iPhone here because this is what I created it on. And basically, let's say you wanted to run or create that shortcut where what it does is it runs automatically when it connects up to a car. Or maybe you want it to go into low power mode when your battery hits 50% instead of 20%. We're going to set up those two shortcuts. I'm going to do the car one on the phone, and we're going to do the battery one on the iPad. These automations do not sync. They are on a per device basis. So when I set this up on the iPhone, it will not run on the iPad. I'd have to set it up on the iPad and vice versa. You cannot run automations on the Mac. So these are iPad, iPhone only. And Michael, this is also where you can create HomeKit automations. So you'll see that shortly. So essentially what I do is I go down to automation here. I'm in the Shortcuts app on my phone. And I need to create a personal automation. If you're using HomeKit, what you can do is set up, create a HomeKit. I do not have HomeKit set up on this device here. I just have it on my personal device. But this is where you would go, Michael, to set up a HomeKit shortcut. So it can. What we're going to be doing is there's basically two steps. We have to set the condition and then what we want it to do. So with HomeKit, what would be the condition? When someone arrives home, because HomeKit keeps track of that. With the car, we have to set up a personal automation, and this is when it connects up to the car. So I'm going to go with personal automation here. Now what I do is I set the condition. You can see we have a number of different conditions here. So my car does not have CarPlay, but let's say your car does have CarPlay. What you would do is use CarPlay. When it connects, that's the condition, stop the media. Mine doesn't have that, unfortunately. I wish they did. But I do have Bluetooth. So what I'm able to do is go when my phone connects up to what device? My car. When it connects up to my car, that's the condition. What do I want it to do? So I tap on next, and this is the action. So we have conditions and actions. What's the condition to run the action? So I go add action, and I want to pause. So I just type in here pause. It's easiest just to search. You're going to see play pause. That's what I want. And I don't want it to play pause because that's a toggle. It's going to alternate every time. I just want it to pause. Every time it connects up to my car, I just want it to pause. So I tap on pause, and I just say pause. So now what it's going to do is pause my iPhone, pause any media that is playing on my iPhone. So I tap on next, and I tap on done. And there it is. Here's my automation. I don't have to open up my phone. I can leave it in my pocket. As soon as it connects up to my car, it's just going to run this automation. It's going to pause any media. That's it. It's done. You don't even have to do anything. That's the beauty of automations. On the iPad, let's set up the battery one. Let's say your iPad, you can do this on the iPhone as well. Let's say your battery is not as strong as it was. You would like to go into low power mode because I think low power mode is fantastic to save the battery life. But if it's down to 20%, it might be a little too late. So what you would like to do is have it set, I want it to go into low power mode when the battery gets down to 50%. Set up an automation. So I go into my shortcuts and Come on. You can do it. It's done. All right. Force quit. All right. So we have automation over here. Again, same kind of thing. If I was with, I had HomeKit set up on this, I could have things run based on HomeKit. But again, I'm going to do a personal automation. It has nothing to do with HomeKit. What is the condition? Well, if I scroll all the way down here, you're going to see battery level. I'm not going to do low power mode. That's the action I want, not the condition. The condition is when my battery level falls below 50%. And I can change this if I want, but I'm just going to leave it at 50%. So that's the condition. Now I set my action. The action is going to be going to low power mode. So I type in here low, and set low power mode is right there. And I make sure that it's turned on. So it's going to turn low power mode on. I tap on next. Here's a key part I forgot to mention. Ask before running. What this will do, if I leave this on, what this is going to do is this is going to say, when my battery gets below 50%, it's going to ask me, do you want to turn on low power mode? I just want it to turn on low power mode. I don't want it to ask me. So I turn that off. If you want it to ask you, you can just leave that on. But I don't want it to do that. I just want it to run automatically. So now, that's what's going to happen here. When my battery falls below 50%, it's going to go into low power mode. All automatic. I don't have to touch anything. Let's go back. Yep, it's just kind of running in the background. It doesn't take up a lot of battery power. I mean, it's just monitoring stuff. I mean, your Bluetooth, if I go back over to my iPhone here, this Bluetooth is constantly, connecting and disconnecting. It's on all the time. So it doesn't take, these shortcuts, they don't take a lot of power, at least from what I understand. They don't add any more resources to it. They're just kind of running in the background. I want to mention with this one here, I forgot about it. Again, up at the top here, enable this automation. This is turned on. It's usually turned on by default. So when this connects up to my car, it's going to ask me, do you want to pause the media? If you like that, leave that on. If you just want it to pause without, again, just turn that off. And now it'll just turn it off without having to connect up to the, you don't have to confirm, I guess I should say. So that is, the basics of shortcuts. Like I say, there's a lot to digest here. What I would recommend doing is just kind of playing around with the simple shortcuts. You saw most of the stuff that I was playing around with had 2 or 3 steps. And that's it. Play around with those and see what you can do with them. Don't get into the ones that have the 50 steps and the ones with the menus. It was even for me, and I kind of like this stuff, and I understand programming. If someone can give me, if someone gave me an Xcode project, I'd actually probably be able to finish it up and put it into the store. I understand that, and that calculate tip one kind of threw me. So start out with some of the basics, and then you can kind of advance and go on. And like Michael was saying, what you'll want to do is, if you play around with these, is duplicate them. So duplicate it before you work on any one of them. On the Mac and on the iPhone, iPad, I tap and hold, and I can duplicate it, and then you can kind of play around with it before you take a look at it. And when you're looking at them in the store, let's go over to the gallery. I call it a store, but it's a gallery. What you are able to do is see how many steps there are. So like turn text into audio. I'm curious of what that one does. You don't have to add it. Don't add it and clutter up your shortcuts app. Just click on it. You can do the same thing on the iPad and iPhone. And then before you add it, again, don't add it. Just go and edit it. On the Mac, I tap on the 3 dots. On the iPad, I would just go over to the actual shortcut. Tap on the three dots, and then I can kind of see what it is. So this one here, it's going to receive the text from quick actions. If there is no text, it's going to ask. Then it's going to speak the audio from what it receives in this input. Remember those variables, the magical variable, I think is what they called it. And then it's going to show it in quick look. So those are the three steps. And then you can kind of play around with it and just see how it works for you. So that's basically what shortcuts are. And as you can see, they can do quite a bit, but start out small, kind of thing. I will be adding some of these to my site. And when I do, I'm just not going to add the shortcuts so you can download them. My plan is to kind of go through each one in like a little 5-minute video as I do and kind of explain what it does and what you can change and how it works and all that. So then you can play around with them. So look for those, and in the coming weeks, I'm just kind of playing around with them, and any fun ones I'll just kind of add. So, but basically that's how it works. So
You really have perked our interest here, and this is like the only class you've done where I wanted to like leave in the middle of it and go play with the software. But I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, there is a lot that you can do. Check out those websites too. Just search for Apple shortcuts, and you can kind of see what those are. And you've heard me say it probably too many times, but I'll say it one last time. Stay simple. Otherwise, that's what I it just kind of like you get overwhelmed, and then all of a sudden it's just like, I'm not going to do it. Right. So keep it simple, and then you can progress to the more complicated stuff. But you got to learn the basics. Learn how to add it to your home screen. Learn how to change the name, the icon. Start out with those small little things, and quit apps. Open up this app, or maybe you just want to quit all your apps and open up 2 apps. That kind of thing, or and do it on the iPad, do it on the iPhone, that kind of thing, and see where it works. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice. What I did with Yes, it works with the share menu. I didn't get into that because that can get a little bit more tricky, but yeah, it works with the share menu. Also, don't, what I did on my personal automation. Let's see if I can, see if you can see it. What I did is I created a home screen here with just shortcuts. So you can kind of see. So I just go to that home screen and I have all my shortcuts. The bottom one is for my car and garage door. So what I'm able to do is start the climate and stop the climate. But more than that, the one above it, the 2 gray ones right here, these 2 gray ones, one of them is open the garage door and the other one is close the garage door. So my car can do that. But if you were to look at that shortcut, it's the exact same shortcut. But the reason why I duplicated it and renamed it is because for me, I want to close the garage door. All I have to do is just, probably up to my watch, I could just say close the garage door, and it would run that script. And if the garage door was open, it'd close it. If the garage door was closed, it would open it. But I just wanted to duplicate it so I can easily say, I'm probably confusing you, but I literally can go. Let's see here. Yeah. Close the garage door. Even though my garage door is closed, when I said close the garage door, it is now running that script, and my car doesn't know if the garage door is open or closed. It's just sending a signal to do, it's like hitting the button on the, just my garage door is now open, even though I said close the garage door. Point being, it's the exact same shortcut. I just renamed it. So it's more for me verbally. Now, instead of, trying to figure out, do something with the garage door, kind of thing, I can just say open it or close it. It doesn't really matter. So I'm probably confusing you, but that's probably not. No, I'm going to say no. So yes, that's right. Yep. Yep. It's, and that's what I say. It's kind of fun. There are some fun ones. There are some useful ones. There's one that, for people that have anxiety, that kind of thing. If you go into the gallery, there's one, how, how I feel or something like that. But essentially what you run that shortcut and it asks you like 3 or 4 questions and then it'll send it over to whoever you designate. So what I would be able to do if I was feeling a little bit down or whatever, I would just run that shortcut, run a couple questions, and I could send it off to Beth. So then she would be able to kind of see where I'm at mentally wise. There's all kinds of different things that you can do. Some of them are going to be more valuable to others, but it's a fun little program that I'm finding more enjoyable than I ever thought I would. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. For anybody that's familiar with AppleScript was more powerful on the Mac. You're going to see there's some shortcomings on the Mac. Shortcuts does not have as much as what AppleScript did. Also, there are a lot of third-party apps include shortcuts, Instagram, that kind of thing. They do have them. So, but some of them don't. The Tesla app itself doesn't have any shortcuts, but I have a third-party app that I'm able to control my car with and all that. That one does have shortcuts. So I had to download a third-party app and now I can run shortcuts to control my car. Some app developers will put them in and other ones won't. I think you're going to see this more and more. And I think my prediction with WWDC that's coming up in a couple of weeks, I think one of the things you're going to see is further advancements with this shortcuts, because I think it's a little bit of a gem in that, especially with the iPad and the iPhone, just what you can do with it. Like you say, you just, go in here and, let's see here. What is it? Calculate tip. So I just calculate tip.
Shortcut says, what is the bill?
$53.23.
How much would you like to tip?
25%.
Your tip is $13.31, and your total is $66.54.
Kind of handy. I don't even have to have an app for that. You remember how you could always, people were coming out with those tip apps. It's right there in a shortcut. So yeah, that's my little thing on shortcuts. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are new to my stuff, you can find all my videos on Dan's Tutorials. It is a membership-based site, although you can view all the tutorials for free. But I'm a one-man operation. This pretty much is my, like I would say, I work 10 hours a week at the school, which isn't a lot. This is pretty much my thing. So if you like what you see, I just ask you to help support small business, one person, kind of thing. So I appreciate it. Outside of that, everyone have a good weekend. I will not be around next weekend or next week. Sorry, we are going to Kansas City for Memorial Weekend to meet up with, meet up with some friends. So I will not be around next week Thursday, but we'll have an AMA on the following Thursday. It is in my calendar or on my site, so you can sign up for that. So, all right. Thank you, everyone.
I may have some shortcut questions for you. I'll send them to you in advance. I've been playing around with shortcuts.
Yeah. Just just share with me anything that you create, or if you have a question on something, maybe I can help you out with that, and then I can put it on my site. I'm not going to turn my site into a shortcut site, but there's just so much you can do with it, and I think if more people embraced it, I think they'd really enjoy it. It's kind of cool. So
well, I'll let you know if I can figure out how I can do my backyard with a shortcut. works. So I'll share that with you, Dan.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see everyone in a couple of weeks. Outside of that, I'll be adding some stuff on accessibility. I'm creating some lessons on accessibility, finding some cool stuff with that, as well as some shortcuts and a few other little things here and there. So thank you, and we'll talk to you later.